Educating, informing, serving. Hvac TV, keeping government honest.
Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting for the Bells Falls Union High School School District to order. First, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Adjustments to the agenda. June,
I'd like to move the Greater Falls Community Justice Center to between 5 and 6.
I'm gonna move 8A up to after 5,
Yes.
so he doesn't have to stay here all night. Maybe he wants to.
It's cheaper.
Any other adjustments to the agenda?
Molly,
Priscilla,
probably we need policies under new business as well. So we can do a motion.
I
We have under old business.
have them
Yeah,
under old
those
business
are-
because they've been on there.
It says slash
That's
action.
those, but that we need C10, C10P, C11, C12, C14, and F34.
Oh, I didn't get those.
Just as an awareness, and so we can do a warning policy.
So I think that what we need to do then is add policies under 6 for reports from the policy committee, and then it will be added on the next agenda.
Okay. That's fine. Because we would not be approving them tonight anyway, but I thought maybe you needed them under new business as well. That's why I suggested.
And did you have a thought on that? It's always been on the report.
Yeah, I think if you brought it up during reports, it'd be the same as,
That's,
so.
thank you.
Either way is fine.
Anyone else have any adjustments?
Molly,
Yes, Jason.
thank you. Can I get clarification on what 4A means? Staff member follow-up.
So that was, you stole all my grammar.
Oh, please continue that.
And I'm gonna blame it on me. I'm gonna own it. Been a busy week and I sent the agenda in and I didn't file it with a fine tooth comb like I should have, and I have no idea how 4A got there. So I have spoken with the principal and 4A is coming off the agenda. He says that what he feels that is about, he is addressing in his principal's report. So if somebody had something they wanted to happen, it shouldn't have been under communications and public comments, and we'll get it on next month's agenda. Any other adjustments? Communication and public comments. Hi, guys. Doesn't look like we have any on our screen.
No, not on the screen, no.
Okay. We're gonna review and approve board minutes for April 25th. Everyone looked at them. June, go ahead.
All I have is, when we went into executive session, we invited, Don Broadley and Andy Haas. And it doesn't state Andy. It's on the last page, under 9. That's all I have.
Anyone else? Priscilla,
Yeah, I think at the bottom where you've got, I think under clerk, rather than Tara's name, we ought to have June Streeter's name. She's our clerk and she's the one who has to sign the minutes.
Maybe it should say like
recording clerk.
recording clerk or something.
But June's the one that has to sign them, so.
Or maybe both names.
I don't get paid per meeting, do I?
No,
No.
but you put you in the clerk that has to sign them.
Darn.
Right, there's a question.
Yeah,
Deb
Deborah
Wright?
and Brenda Park.
Yes, my question is, was David the only director who had comments? Because he's the only one listed in the minutes.
And me.
Yeah, I
Under
think the rest,
Yeah.
Anything else? Are we comfortable with approving them with these changes made, or do we have to send them back?
I'll make a motion,
She
Margot,
just needs to.
to approve the minutes of April 25th as amended.
I'll second.
I'm gonna take a roll call. There's a motion on the floor to approve the minutes with the corrections made. Pamela,
Yes.
Brenda,
Yes.
Deb,
Aye.
Tanya. David,
Yes.
Margot,
Yes.
Priscilla,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
June.
Yes.
They've been approved. I would like to introduce John, I'm gonna ruin your last name, Ungerleider. Leiter. He is from Greater Falls Community Justice Center. If you could first just to kind of explain to us what you do for our school, and then the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. I've been doing restorative practices trainings at the high school, where the center has also been doing them at the middle school, and we're going to do them in the elementary schools. Andy's been doing some trainings there now on the early release days on a Wednesday. And first I want to give a shout out to the teachers here and to Carrie Newton. I mean, they've been amazing. The teachers here have impressed me so much. I didn't think they'd get as far as they've gotten. And I'll ask, oh, are you trying this? Are you trying that? And they're going beyond what I expected to. And I've been really, just want to let you know that I've been very impressed with them as a group. And Carrie has not been here so much. Carrie Newton has been brought in to do some restorative practice works around in all the schools. And she's also been doing amazing work, and they're getting some really impressive stories. And now I'll start kind of going to the broader idea of what this is, restorative practices, which is to do discipline in the schools, and yet to do it in a way that tries to include, reintegrate, not lose people from the community, but still have accountability for what people have done. So it's building building skills in how to do these circle type meetings. And we're already getting great stories about some disciplinary changes that are happening where some students, or where Carrie has done them. Teachers are already using them on curriculum and things like English and social studies in ways to get people to share their perspective on what they think about these issues. And it comes on building this idea of more restorative mindset, restorative language. It's a bit of a clunky word. What are we restoring? I think the idea is you're restoring basic respect and dignity for people. I didn't invent the words, but that's just sort of what's caught on in the schools. My background is doing conflict transformation. I worked at SIT for many years, so worked with a lot of international conflicts, Iraqis, Israelis and Palestinians, Catholics and Protestants from Northern Ireland, Indians and Pakistanis, those kinds of groups that really want to kill each other. And we get them to talk to each other. And we brought a lot of high school kids here to SIT for almost 30 years, about, I think, several thousand students over those years. And really, they become friends with people they're enemies with. So then I said, okay, after all that training, am I ready to take on Bellows Fall? So, so here we are. I'm trying to up my game. And just to know that it's not, we don't dive right in though to the hard stuff. It's about building the capacity. It's community building. communication skills development, and changing the process of how we talk about issues. So Robert's Rules works great for this, and it's doing another approach with students and with teachers. And we've been working in districts around the area, and in fact, I did a school board training up in Marlboro a week ago, and you're happy to talk to them. They really enjoyed it. And we've been working for 2 years up there, and really just the way teachers are with each other and with administration, and even when there are issues with parents, it's changed the dynamic. And they're feeling good about it. They said they'd be happy to write up blurbs if we wanted, but we're doing it here. And I feel like we're making great progress. So I thought the best way just to give you a feel of it would be just do a quick sort of mock circle, maybe just with a group inside. I'd like to include everybody, but for time, maybe just do sort of more a fishbowl, and you just get a sense of how a circle process works. Pretty simple, but I think you can see how you can go from being very light to being very serious quickly and hopefully safely. You want to try?
Sure.
Okay.
I get accused of being too serious though.
Huh? You don't have to be serious. The other thing is that the rules are, it's voluntary. So you can pass. You don't have to talk. And that's important. And it's important for kids because sometimes they're not ready, and then they're ready. And so usually we do something like a talking piece. So I threw some things in my pocket, and John's going to pick one.
Okay.
And that's a balance. That gives us
On the
balance,
level,
right?
on the level. Keep it
Okay,
on the level.
that's I thought that symbolically was good. So this is what you can do. This is going to be the prompt, and we'll go around here, and then the chair can decide if anybody else wants to speak. But I think at least people will see how it works. And the point of the rule is to speak from my perspective. Use I statements. Don't talk in general. We or you. Just I. You can say speaking from the heart is one way to think of it. And then listen to understand. We're not active listening. We're not doing clarifications. We're not getting any back and forth. And that's what the talking piece keeps. So we go around, one person talks, everybody else just listens. I may want to react, I may want to clarify, but I don't. Sometimes we could do a resonance round. Okay, what did I resonate with? What did I have a reaction to? But for this, we'll just do this. So this is what I'm going to ask you to do. Three things. One is a silly one. Name a favorite song or summer activity. Favorite summer song or activity. We came up with a great summer playlist from the high school, which I shared if anybody wants it to listen to all summer. But anyway, what's your favorite summer song or activity if you can't think of one? Then, just in a few words, what's one thing I value about our town, our community here? And the third thing is, what do I think is the biggest challenge facing our school and students? And brief, the one thing is respecting the time we have, respect the talking piece in order, you can pass. So it's pretty simple. So do you want to start?
Sure.
No.
Okay. It's my favorite song is summer song or anytime song that really makes the hairs on my neck stand up. It's The Best by Tina Turner. From a young boy, when I went to see my favorite team in Scotland, they blasted that out the stadium, and it just made the hairs on my neck stand up, and it still does. What I like about our town, our area, is, I don't want to use the word community because I feel there is a great sense of community in our town. I can go down and buy a coffee. I could be in Walgreens waiting for my daughter's prescription, anything. And I know a lot of people are all friendly. They never stop, even, tonight, I walked in, hey, how's it going? How's school? But, it's just everybody most people talk from the heart, and it just makes me feel wanted and just happy to be there, happy to be here. Biggest challenge, without a doubt, will be to get our kids back on track. And after having this little hiatus called the pandemic, to get them all back on track, recover a lot of learning that's been lost through not necessarily faults of their own, but I feel confident that we're going to do that.
turn. My favorite activity this for the is family camping. We camp a lot. The views of the community around here is you can go down the street and I recognize people from when I was in school. It's very small, very together, family almost knit. So that's very nice. And then I agree with John where COVID might be the biggest challenge to getting our kids back and get kind of the Zoom thing with the kids. So that's nice.
My name is David Clark, if you're on TV. So for songs, I think it's going to be Summertime Blues. I will quote a line or two because most people don't know it. I called my boss. I said I was sick. He said, "Come on in, boy. We're going to be a working late." Sometimes I wonder what I'm going to do. There ain't no cure for the summertime blues. Okay, speaks, I think, to the realities of making your way in life. Community. I live in Westminster West. I don't have the issues that John or Tanya does. I wave to my neighbors as they drive by. Generally speaking, people in Westminster West seem to be pretty tolerant of other people, and I make it a point to emulate that effort. School. Well, I'm also in agreement with Mr. Broadley here. We've got a lot of ground to make up, and I believe very strongly that we need to identify what ground that is we need to make up, and then have a clear understanding of how we're going to do it. That's something that, from my perspective, we don't talk about very much at this table.
We used to do this at home. Couldn't talk unless you had a talking stick. There was too many of us. I don't have a favorite song, but my favorite activity is getting our camper to the beach and just having some time away from the hustle and bustle. The value about our town, I think, is our people. It's our community. When I first got involved in Bellows Falls, I had no idea how strong the community was here. It was very uplifting. You know, I came from across the river and they would say, "You're sending your kid to Bellows Falls?" And, you know, they already had me feel like I was, you know, making a mistake. And it has been the greatest, it's been the greatest experience. She did very well here. And, you know, I got involved at this level and it's been a good experience. I think our challenge, if we're talking about our schools, the challenge is that we're a very small school and we have kids from every level of the spectrum that we're trying to educate and you know, maybe we're trying to get them to college, maybe we're trying to get them just to get a high school education, you know, have that diploma. So when they fill out an application for work, it says they got a high school diploma, because, you know, that means a lot to all of us that are trying to hire people. And, you know, just, you know, you might be a really good dude, but if it says you don't have a high school diploma, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't look great. And because we're such a small school, we get a lot of flack about our teacher to student ratio and, you know, our programs and how can we only have 2 or 3 kids in one program. But we have to try to take care of every level. And, you know, that's why we end up with these super small classes sometimes, because it drives this cost of the school up, and we worry about that all the time with the budget, but it's very important to try to be able to take care of everyone.
So I think for my favorite song, I want to keep playing a lot these days, is "Keep a Little Soul" by Tom Petty. It's an outtake, so it's not on a regular album, but I think I would echo everything in the 4 years that I've been in this community, the connectivity and how everyone just, when there's an issue, people can gather together and come together to support each other. So very appreciative of that. And I think our biggest challenge for our students is, I think kids are resilient, and I think kids will come back from COVID, but where I'm really concerned is their emotional well-being and their understanding of where they are in our place.
For those online, my name is Margot Gia, and summertime activity, I think it's just getting out and exploring new areas, although that's not specifically to summer. I guess that's all the time. In terms of community, I think everyone before me has spoken so well on that, but it's been a really tremendous place to raise my kids. And having moved around a lot growing up, I really appreciate, this was the type of community that I always sort of dreamed about or thought about in terms of what I was missing out on, I guess, in a way. So it's neat to see that other side through the eyes of my kids. And our biggest challenge, I think, again, everyone has sort of spoken to various pieces of this. And I just want to kind of reiterate what Molly said, and that really our challenge and continued opportunities are to provide levels of growth for every student, no matter where they fall and what their next steps are. And that's a challenge at our level of size. But it's something that I'm also encouraged by with the school.
Okay. Well, I'm fairly new to the community. Jim Vizina in finance. And my favorite summer song is probably Singing in the Rain. And I do want to say, I think it's important, as we always encounter obstacles. We always are prone to get frustrated, but staying positive and moving forward in a positive way and helping each other, working together to get to the finish line, I think is so critical. And so I can only say I'm here to help, and that's all.
Thank you, sir. Well, I guess my favorite activities are the family and friend gatherings, cookouts in the backyard by the pool. I really value our close-knit community, and that's why I grew up here, went to school here, and am here and taught here. I think our biggest issue is to make sure that we support the schools and make sure that our students get an excellent education so that they can achieve every one of them to their full potential, while we also balance the costs to the community and to all of us who are also taxpayers.
This reminds me of a show. I'm going to date myself. I used to pass around a mirror and say, I see, Sally, is like Proper Room, was it, or something like that? So
Magic mirror.
We didn't have TV.
I'm going to be that guy, John. I'm going to pass on the first two. And I feel like the biggest challenge is how we continually kick the can down the road. And anything that we bring up at meetings doesn't seem to get resolved. We have to continually bring it up, kicking the can down the road, and there's just a repetitive circle of mush.
My favorite summer song, I guess I'd have to say, is Toes in the Sand. The value of our community, I think, is the support that everyone has for our high school, especially, sports, around sports or drama or any activity that our students do here at the high school. The biggest issue facing us, again, is the COVID masking mental health setbacks that we've had the last 2 years and catching up.
I'm going to pass, but I'll defer to the chair if you think that's a good place to stop, or if you think it's important to include anybody else. I know there's probably some board members up there. It's up to you.
Deb, would you like to speak?
No, I think I'm fine to pass, but thank you.
Pamela?
Sure, thank you. Favorite song? Well, as a student, it probably would have been Alice Cooper's School's Out.
But as a teacher, I find myself at the end of the summer, humming Lana Del Rey's Summertime Sadness because the summer is ending. And my favorite things to do are go for walks since I'm out for school in our beautiful community of Grafton. And I love maple creamies. So that's something I did not grow up with, is a maple creamy, and I really enjoy it. And I can say that's something I love about our community. And I love how beautiful and everything feels like it's just shining. And Vermont is just so pretty during the summer, and I love it. So I feel very fortunate to spend my summers up here now. So the biggest challenge I think that we face is when, as an educator, I tend to put my hat on and I think of Maslow, and students cannot grow unless they Maslow. And I think one of the biggest problems we need or have is that we need all students to realize that they are loved, respected, and included.
Is that it?
Brenda?
Yes, that's it.
Brenda? Brenda, would you like?
Yep, favorite song, Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Favorite activity, gardening, being outside. Small town. I've lived in places that were so rural, there was no small town. And I also lived in places that were, when we were, my husband was back in school at a late age, in a suburban area that was way big. So I am enjoying small town. And the third one was everything that you all have already said, and preparing and teaching life skills for the kids.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
Okay, so just to wrap up, I'll say one thing in a minute, but just turn to the person next to you for 1 minute and just, what do you think this kind of process could bring to students? We're speaking equally, we're sharing new things. What do you think are the benefits of this for community building, for communication, and for eventually for problem solving on difficult issues? Just to talk to each other for 30 seconds, a minute, and then I'll answer some questions.
Well, I'll respond to you, John. I can remember doing a very similar exercise at the table where you whisper and the person next to you hear and you say, white. When it makes its way around the table, it's black. And I point this out because it's an interesting intervention. So I'd be very, shall we say, interested to know what, shall we say, the research tells us about it. And I am open to considering it, but I'm also open to considering other forms of intervention as well. And I'm sorry to be a little bit windy here, but on April 25th, we had a guidance counselor come in here speaking under communication and public comment as a member of the community who had quite a few things to say about what she felt were some of the endemic shortcomings of students' life here, particularly for minority students. I had never heard this before, and by golly, if your circles can help us address those situations proactively, then.
So I think wrap up, and we can do these other times, and just I want to say, unfortunately, the meeting was canceled 2 weeks ago when I was originally scheduled to do this, and I could have invited you to a training a couple days later. We're done with the trainings for this year, but you're certainly in the fall welcome to attend any of the trainings, board members. And certainly if you'd like to do any training with us, we're available as well. Any questions before I finish?
Where are you located out of?
Well, the Greater Falls Community Justice Center is right downtown on Village Square.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a card or anything?
I do. Actually, I was going to leave you these.
Do you work for the school or are you just?
Well, I'm just, we have a contract with the school to do training. These are just, have some questions. These are actually not business cards, but they give you an example of those questions. And then Andy knows how to get in touch with me. So
thank you.
Molly, if I may, so 4 years ago, right, John, that we we started to partner with you guys, and then just series of events and then COVID and all that stuff kind of derailed it. And so when I came on and, got connected with John, and when Carrie took over as the restorative practice coordinator, it's just wanting to grow, because for the last 4 years, we've really been vested in restorative practice, and it just haven't been able to get it going. And so this year, it's been great to have John and his folks, partnering with them and helping, just spread the capacity a lot faster. And like you said, John, I think everything I've heard is that it's picked up real fast. It's not, and people have been asking for it. So I greatly appreciate that. And I was just telling Margot, I was just at the Vermont Superintendents Association, where we had kids come and they led a circle where they talked, and they handled some really difficult things. And superintendents, we just kind of watched as a fishbowl like this. It was interesting. And then the kids broke us all up into smaller groups, and we had to participate in it. And kids, they didn't hold back on the questions they were asking us too. So it was really interesting. And so it does give that equity of voice. And so, it's going to be.
So I have just one question before we move on. We talk about this being about the children, about the students, how we handle discipline, how we handle situations. And I think, and David made a good point, and I had something on this agenda tonight that didn't make it on there the way I wanted it to. What are we doing when maybe a staff member has, maybe some of us would call gone rogue a little bit on something? Are you involved at that level, or is that someone else?
Well, that's kind of up to you, but we want it to be for the students, and yet it is for the staff.
Because hopefully if they're going through this, they're learning something too, but it sounds like it's student-based.
Well, the goal is to change the culture so it benefits the students. But in fact, in Marlboro, we've only been working with the teachers and the administration for 2 years.
Because the culture starts at the top.
Yeah, exactly. And the teachers need to be on board. But to be honest, I think what's happening in this district is some of the younger students are getting out ahead of the teachers with it. We got the high school, I'd say the teachers are ahead of the students, but from what I hear from Carrie, there's some amazing younger students who are learning this, and the teachers it's a little bit newer to them, whereas the students are driving right in. So hopefully get everybody on board.
So right now, your level though is student level.
No, right now, our level is teacher level.
It is here.
Hoping to trickle down to the students. That's the long-term goals of students.
Okay, thank you.
Which it is already trickling down, but it's everybody's in.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Good.
Ideally.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. All right.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, we're gonna move on to report superintendent.
I sent out my report that I gave to the SU board. I can highlight anything.
You guys for the Jackson.
Just thinking of time. Do you want me to read through it, or?
If there's something you think should be brought to this board, then yes, I do.
So I think one of the things that got into quite a deep conversation was talking about potential uses of some of our ARP ESSER funds. We had just previous to the meeting last week, had gotten concept approval around an early learning center, which would be a birth through preschool facility, including in also a new SU spot. And the concept came from a few different ideas. Was one, the current classrooms that we're utilizing for preschool, we use one at the Westminster Center and one at Central Elementary since we left Cherry Hill, they're not appropriate for the age of a preschooler. That's one of the things, just the design of them and how preschools are designed. But we really started thinking about, and when I say we, it was a committee, it's the ESSER committee that we have, really talking about how could we utilize our ESSER funds to have the greatest impact on our students for a long-term investment, and being able to really provide intervention services for kids at a very young age, really boiled up to the top, or want to call it the cream that rose to the top of talking about, really looking at developing a center where we control the curriculum, where we have all our staff who can provide services, not taking away from what's already being provided in the community. Our research is showing that there's up to 24 families that are on waiting lists and cannot get into childcare between birth and preschool right now. And so really looking to increase that. As I say, it was a concept. It was, when you use ARP funds, you have to get everything pre-approved before you can even think about trying to spend one penny. So we put that up. It took 3 to 4 months for the AOE just to approve that one thing. In comparison, the HVAC system here, the concept approval came back relatively quick. So the AOE spends a lot of time. Where it's relevant really to the high school is the SU can't own any property. And so to build something like that, the SU would have to partner with a district. The fact that the high school has a lot of acreage here, the committee was feeling that having it at the high school, not only because of having the acreage, but the proximity to high school students. So high school students could potentially do early childcare type classes, but we could partner with the psychology class and the sociology class and other curriculum that's here in the building, and partner with that. When we talk about work-based learning, where students could potentially go right into doing some internships. So right now, like I say, it's literally a concept. And so we've got approval to kind of move ahead and to potentially talk to an architect and whatnot. But we introduced it the other night to the SU board. There was no action taken, so we're not asking for any action from this board yet either, but we wanted to kind of get it out there. We are going to be planning a community night. We got the challenges have been just trying to find a night where we could get that available. So we'll have some information coming out on that. But then we're also looking at, funds, like I said, one of is the HVAC system here. And then potentially some other items from here. And on our website is our plan. And it's got all of the ideas on it. They're not all going to happen, but it's got all the ideas on it. And so if folks can go and take a look at that. The other thing is that PCB testing dates were released. The high school was, for some reason, was at the end of, it was January to March of 2024. I speculated when I saw those. I've asked the state for some information. I haven't gotten any answer back. But when we asked for the HVAC system and got that approval, and then when it was brought up here about PCBs, and I queried the state, the answer was, well, we want you to do the repairs before we do the testing. So I speculate that this building got pushed back because they're anticipating that we're going to repair the HVAC system. So they want to wait for us to get one thing done. And then summer programming for the high school. We'll be running, the summer credit recovery. We'll continue to run here for students. And then the last day of school for students will be Monday, June 20th. That's an early release day. We had one traditional snow day this year, so we have to push it out one day. And then the last day for staff will be Tuesday, June 21st. We're asking that we not have any meetings held the week of June 13th. That is the graduation week. So we're just making that known. And then also our recovery team, which began meeting last year. It's an online meeting. Anyone is welcome to attend. We have quite a big standing team, but we're always looking for new voices to attend that meeting. And that's going to be June 6th from 3 to 5. And we're just asking that if anyone is interested, that's not already on that committee, but if someone isn't normally getting those invites, if they would like to attend, just to shoot me an email, because we break people out into groups and we just need to do that ahead of time.
Thank you.
Question under the superintendent's report. And I want to precede that question with a quote from one of my Westminster West neighbors, who used to be was the head of the Putney School, and he said, you know, I really think we should pay kindergarten teachers the most and scale it back from there. Something that people in associations might want to consider. But what I want to say is that I fully agree and understand that the sooner you get the kids, the better their chances are to graduate proficient. My concern is that if we build out a program with ESSA money, how are we going to maintain that program with when the ESSA money runs out? I think there have been several hires made in this district recently that were made with ESSA money. Are we going to continue those hires when we have to pony up the dough ourselves? I'm all for good ideas, and it's a good idea, birth through pre-K. But I think we need to do the cost-benefit analysis so we know what it's going to cost us when the free money goes away, and be prepared to determine the value of these programs if we really intend to sustain them long term.
I agree.
Anyone else have any questions? Jason?
Thank you, Molly. So something was brought up in the public, and I don't know the answer. I wanted to ask you, Andy. Is there any small print details on the ESSER, like when we sign? Is there anything that had like are we going to be held to do something that we normally won't do? Like, is there like some sort of, if they're giving us all this money, is there any like, I don't know.
What's the hook?
Yeah, thank you. Because nothing's free.
I think that came up at the SU meeting also. To my knowledge, and Jim, I don't know how much. To my knowledge, the big piece that's been brought up is it's federal money, so we have to sign off on assurances that we'll obviously use it appropriately, and that we understand that the federal government could come and essentially ask for their stuff back. Like if you were to invest $2 million in the HVAC system here, and then all of a sudden we were going to shutter this school and raise it, we have to notify the federal government, right, that we're going to do that. And they could technically come back and say, well, we want our $2 million back because we just put that in and you've only let it be in there a year, kind of thing. So there is that piece. It was the issue that we got into with Grafton, because Grafton is owned by the town of Grafton, and so we have to show that there's a serious commitment to that building before we could use any kind of ESSER funds towards that. And so we had to redo the lease agreement with them for a long term. I think we did 55 years at $1, type of thing. So
what about, thank you for that. What about like the people piece? Like, let's say they, in the small, very last line says the principal now has to work 360 days a year, or you have to work X amount of days, or we have to put mask on forever.
No, there's nothing in there that.
Are you sure?
I've not seen one thing or heard one thing.
Okay,
so
because I'm worried about that type of thing. I'm worried about people being held to something other than what they're supposed to be doing. Like, I don't want to take control from the administration or how we normally do things. That's what I'm concerned about. That's all. And I don't know if anyone else has heard that throughout, but that's something I heard.
Last Wednesday was the first I had heard anyone.
And then the last meeting, I asked for some numbers. We went over the budget, and was told that would get back to us as far as what was spent and what was budgeted, what was spent, and I didn't hear anything back through email or anything. So do you want me to email them to you and Jim, or how do you want to do that?
Yeah, if you want to
It was
email
like-
me directly your questions,
Okay.
and Jim, then we can get you those answers.
Okay, it's fine in the
specifically.
meeting notes too. I just,
So I apologize,
okay, thank you.
Priscilla,
Really, David spoke about the cost benefit analysis thing, and we definitely agree we need that. But I think we also probably need to look at families and find out from families whether they would send their children. We're talking about busing from all the different areas to the high school, and you're talking about preschool age children and that. So I think we need that kind of analysis as well. I think we'll get the support, but I think having that information to be able to give to the people would be helpful.
and I don't, so this is just in talking about state at this point, but you know, when I think about what I've heard twice now about this would be, why would we put a child newborn to preschool on a bus? It's parents' responsibility to get them to daycare right now, so it'd be their responsibility to get them to that establishment if it happened. And I do know that there's costs involved, but I also know from experience that people pay a lot of money to know their kid is in a safe environment and is learning something. So this isn't I would, and I'm totally not interested if we thought this was on a tax-based burden where the taxes were, people were gonna support this. The people who need it, the people who are looking for that. We have teachers who didn't come back to school after they had a baby because they couldn't find childcare that they were happy with, or there wasn't any. This isn't something that I think is a freebie. This is something that the community has to support. And most any family, both parents work, and you know, you're very lucky if your child's able to stay home with you, but a lot of times they aren't, and you have to pay. So if we had this, I don't know why we wouldn't expect that people would pay and get their own child there. I don't want to put little babies on a bus.
And they could carpool too. That's another, option.
That's their PTA business, but we're not gonna bus 6-month-old babies on a bus. So sorry, I had to just.
I'll pick them up.
6
All
o'clock.
right.
Put them out at the- just put them out at 6
Put the
o'clock.
car seat down the road. All right, are we done with the superintendent? Let's move on to finance.
Please forgive me because I'm new. I do have a report I worked on this weekend, didn't get it to Andy in time, but Andy, I don't know if you can put that up. If you can't, I don't want to take a lot of your time, but.
Give me a couple seconds here.
Yep, and then
Log in.
I gotta pass this out anyway, so.
I heard you got some work done on the food program,
Yes,
where it's showing the revenues and
yes, we did.
showing that we're not in the hole
Yes, we did.
a lot of money. That was good to hear. Thank
Yes.
you.
Pencils around. So this is a summary of your.
I'm not gonna be able to,
Okay,
because I don't have a thumb drive.
all right. Sorry, next,
These computers so thin.
this sheet shows you your expenditures as of the 17th. And it encumbers funds until the end of the year. Now, this should give you an approximation of where you're going to end up, which is 7,079,000. Now, your budget that was passed was 7,502,000. So you have you have to the good of 423,000. Now, I'm looking at the far left column, the one that says 22. The one next to it, the middle column, which says 23, is next year, just to compare, where your expenditures are lying. And it's just a guide, but that 7,310,000 is what next year's budget is. Now, the 24, which is the far right, the 24 proposed, that right now is, we're hanging that 24 and we're bringing the data live so that as the databases, the teachers, the support staff, the administration becomes live and locked in, we're going to know right where we are come August. And at August time, we'll take a look to see whether we're in the positive or the negative. And then we'll start to push everybody in the track and step and salary piece, along with projections for the health, dental, and other adjustments that have to be made. So you should be able to pretty clearly see where you're going. Any questions that I can ask for you?
I have a quick
Yeah.
question. So the first column is the FY22 actual, it's the budget.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Is there a column that shows expenditures to date?
That's the
Yes.
expenditures.
Okay,
When it says actual, it means actual expense.
but there's no on here, sorry, I'm not wearing my glasses.
Yep.
There's nothing on here, right, that shows where we're at to date.
Well, if you look down at the bottom, your budget is 7.5 million,
Right.
and your expenses, including the encumbrance, because you're going to pay teachers at the end of the year and everything. So all of those are included right now. And it looks like you're at 7,080,000.
Okay, so we just have the general, the big number as a comparison.
Yes.
We don't have by individual category.
Right.
So
And
like
if
we're
you're
going
looking,
over.
no, if you're looking for a budget to comparison, I mean, you're fairly close. And I want to point out to you because that 423 to the good, the board has an item of 164,000 for special items that they put into the budget. So by and large, I'd say you were right on the budget. So.
I have a question.
Yes, David.
Okay. David Clark, Westminster. I'm looking at the 5111 line, and I'm seeing $2,362,852 for salaries for FY22. I'm looking at FY23 adopted, and it's 21,75046. It's down, I don't know, $150,000, $170,000. Now, skipping down to the 5220 line, which is FICA. And for that $2,362,852, we got $214,001 in the FICA line. We go to FY23, where the salary was $21,75046. We have $218,585 in the FICA line. And I think it's interesting. Salary down, FICA up. And I'm guessing, but I'm only guessing, that this may have something to do with our great, good friend, the finance software program that AOE was pushing on us, of which we were an early adopter, so we found it pretty early it didn't work. So just help me.
Yes.
Is that one of those wheelberries that you sometimes have in spreadsheets?
No,
No.
the far right column, 2024,
Okay,
that, the databases are not finished as yet.
okay,
So, this benefits and salary are live as where we are right now. Mid-July, we'll have finished these.
okay.
And you'll have live, actual, up-to-date, exact information.
Because I'm looking at it as salaries down, FICA up. And I'm having difficulty with that. From memory, it's 7.62% of salary. So if the salary goes down, it's still 7.62%, the FICA line should go down. In this case, the FICA line has gone up, you know, $4,500. So, and that's what's puzzling me.
Well, again, once the databases are exact, they'll come right in to what it should be.
Okay, so I don't have my calculator with me. I would already calculate it.
That 24 is just to show you right where we are right now with the data that we have. And again, we've got to comb through that data to make sure that everything is there.
Let me ask the question differently. This is an encumbered or unencumbered number for FY22.
This is encumbered.
Okay, all right, okay.
So this is an exact projection as of the 17th, having all of the expenses, have a purchase order and encumberment. That's what it's going to be.
Got it. Okay. Shall see what we shall see.
Molly, can you ask David where he's seeing that salaries are down? I'm seeing total school district salaries is increasing.
First one, third one. David.
Would you like to explain to Priscilla what you're
What
saying?
line
I'm
you're
looking
on?
at FY22 actual, Priscilla. Line 1, or actually it's line 3, which is
But that's just,
5111. That's a $22,362,852 in the budget for salary. It shows FICA line 5220 of 214,001. Okay, we go to the adopted fiscal year 23 budget. Salaries have gone down and the FICA line has gone up. That's illogical.
okay,
That's what I'm trying to understand.
but David, that's just teachers' salaries. That's not all salaries. I think if you look at the total school district salaries, then you can see that they've gone up, and that possibly would make your FICA district more logical.
Thank you. Good point.
June?
Why are there some blank lines like substitute salaries and technical cert coaches salaries?
And again, this is a work in progress, and substitute salaries, and it's about $43,000 right now resides in the SU budget. And I think those are pushed over at some later time.
So if there's zero here, they're in the SU budget and it'll be pushed over, hopefully,
Well,
at the end.
again, I think those things are items that we have to work on and try to unravel and straighten around and see how best to handle it.
So we may not be 400 and
Well,
something thousand.
That 43,000 will go under subs.
Jim, I think that's a good start.
Good start.
You know, you came into something that was not in anywhere, shape or form halfway as intelligent as this looks like, so.
It's nice to see a financial.
It will, I'm sure every meeting it will become a little bit better than they did.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the efforts.
Okay, thank you.
It's very simple. It's, you know, yeah, there's some holes and some things we gotta move, but I think we're starting to get a handle on it. This is action. So does anyone else have any questions for finance, or can we move on? Boy, you
I
got off
don't see
that,
any online.
you got off that easy. Mr. Broadley.
Okay, short for me. So just a quick HVAC update. M&E Engineering, Ryan Meadows is the chief engineer that's working for them. Very go-getter guy. He's very precise. Nice chap. He's been in the building a couple of times, working with Sean on a walk around. He's been upstairs, downstairs, everywhere. He said roof tiles off. He's looked at a lot of the system. I wouldn't say the whole system, but he may have. And Sean had done a summary for me, which I enclosed in that. I'll read you a little bit of it, but I put it in the notes there. M&E are moving as fast as they can possibly go, it seems anyway, from an onlooker. I believe that they're going to be putting out bids soon for our complete job. Again, I'll keep the board updated as soon as Mike, who is the other young man that's working with us, as soon as they give us any further information, I'll keep everybody up to date with that. Sean had, just to give you an idea of what Ryan was doing, lead engineer from M&E visited BFUHS on 5/5, 5/12 to start his assessment of the HVAC system. During the 5/5 visit, he inspected wing C dampers that were in question. That's above the mezzanine. He found that they were closed more than they should be. He also checked outdoor intake dampers, which seemed to be fine. After this, he went through the A wing to take measurements and check the drawings that he had from 2018 installation of the interior ducts in all 4 zones. He made a few small adjustments to his drawings. Finally, after the students were dismissed at 2:45, they went into the D wing. Ryan wanted to check the hydronic valves in all 6 unit zones. He found that units 1 and 2, which are the ones nearest the front office on the D wing roof, had the valves, and he felt were best for efficient water flow. But he felt that the valves on units 3, 4, 5, and 6, which are the other 4 further into the library end of the D wing, should be changed. When he returned a week later on 5/12, we spent most of the time making sure that he knew where all of the exhaust fans in the building were located. He made sketches with measurements on his drawings. When the students left the building, he wanted to learn the path of the heating water piping to the D wing. We pulled several ceiling tiles to find exact path of the piping to the RTU. He then spent some time on system management system, the computer that Sean runs in out of his office for the system, to familiarize himself with the program. Finally, he looked at several drawings of the HVAC systems and the electrical system. Then he took several with him. So I just wanted to give you that feedback of a kind of day in the life of Mr. Meadows, and they seem to be working fairly aggressively on getting everything just right and then work on the bid specs for the actual job itself. If we have
Question on
any questions?
HVAC.
Yes.
John, we now know that AOE is going to push us off to 2024 on PCB testing.
Yes.
I think that it's generally considered that an efficient HVAC system will minimize PCB effects. Can we find out from ME if they can wrap a number and a time frame around doing it? Because as Andy indicated earlier, it'd be a heck of a pity to pump $2 million into the HVAC system here. Find out we have to abandon the building because PCBs are unremediable, and then pay $2 million back to the feds. If we could spend a little bit of money to get some assurance, I think it's something the board should consider.
Sure. Yeah, I'll find out from Mike exactly where they're at with what Ryan's reported back. See if I can get a time frame off of him of what they'd like to do. I know when we spoke, before we even started this whole process. He seemed very keen on even getting in when the kids were here to get things.
Well, John, I'm hearing you clearly. You
Yes.
want to get in here and do the work. What I'm asking here is
Find out.
whether ME can give us some guidance about PCBs.
Okay. Have that in my next report.
Jason,
Thank you, Molly. I have a question about buildings and grounds, but not about HVAC. Do you want me to wait till the end to ask all my questions, or as we go?
let's let him get through his report and then we'll ask him questions.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, spring sports, they're winding down, getting near the end of the short spring season. Baseball has done very well. They opened up 1-3 and they've now won 10 games in a row. So they're sitting at 11-3. And that's the number 2 seed in their division. Softball are 9-5 and they've had I believe a 5 or 6 game win streak. So those 2 teams are performing very well. Girls tennis have had a very good season. We play the biggest schools, Rutland, Brattleboro, to name a couple, and they're holding their own, which is very pleasing. Track boys and girls, again, it's hard to assess during the track season because kids will, have different times and different heights and different lengths of jump, different throws throughout the season. And then it really all matters when June 3rd rolls around. The state meet this year is on June 3rd, which is a Friday, and it's up in South Burlington because we are in Division 2 for that. So. Guinness World Record attempt. Ariana Wonderly took on a great senior project. She wanted to attempt a high wire walk in high heels on a very thin wire, measured, and I looked at the heels and the heels weren't very big. It was all to the specs of Guinness in there. They're still sending off stuff to Guinness to get it ratified and verified. But the world record prior to her walking it was 4 attempts across, I believe it was 10 or 12 foot distance. And she actually walked 52. So I don't think she gave them. Whoever's going to try it next is going to come back and follow. I did put the clip from CAX on there to let you have a look at it. I did video some of it, but it's very long. So because she was there for a long, long time. So, but it was very, very proud of her, and it certainly was an extreme senior project. But that's right up her alley. So she's a great kid. And lastly, number 4, I put this in because Molly and I talked about the board agenda. We have talked a little bit about a question that David had put on to just find out a little bit more of what I was doing and what we were doing as a school around the concerns of maybe people not reporting stuff to us that was going on around any harassment. So I just thought I would outline to everybody here what my plan or our plan is moving forward. The actions below, we did begin by reading in class meetings our no tolerance approach to harassment, bullying and hazing. And that was just a subtle start to it. We then went on to have all staff trained, and this was before it was pointed out to us, we had this in the works. Staff were trained in further and restorative practices and allowing the using circles in homeroom, as John explained a little bit earlier, to further address any possible issue or possible issues. And it would help address our school climate using circles in homeroom. We're using a speak up approach, which was something that we talked about earlier. And I have a poster and I'm going to email it out to everybody as well. I scanned it tonight, if you want to just take a look at that. Again, just putting up a poster doesn't resolve issues. It needs some further meat behind it. But we will put them up once we've had homerooms. On Thursday, we're going to start this approach. The staff just finished their last session with John week before last. Excuse me. Plan for further diversity training. I know John's working with us a lot on it. Plan for addressing diversity with students at the beginning of next school year, beginning on day one and reinforcing it throughout the year to give kids confidence to voice any of their issues. Use data to further drive approaches to educate students further. I've started collating all the data from the last 5 years of our HHV, hazing, harassment and bullying reports, to give us some data to work and see where, if and where we have our issues. We have 2 years of non-COVID and 2 years of COVID and 1 year of half COVID and coming out of COVID. And then I continue to work with the Vermont Partnership for Fairness and Diversity, working with them to foster ideas that will keep us ongoing. Because I think there's no one fix. We have to be continually addressing this. So.
Well, I do have a couple of questions here. Andrea Carlson's observations weren't hope to me. They hit me with a sledgehammer. And what I'm asking here, I guess, is if what she has told us has taken place, this seems to be a multi-year situation. And boy, John, if we're coming to grips with it now, that's great news. I guess what I'm asking is just how accurate Andrea's observations that she shared with us on April 25th really are. If your hazing, harassment, and bullying reports will wrap some numbers around it, that's great. I'm just, very, very surprised, having sat at this table for quite a few years, that I really had not heard these things before. So, were they taking place and we've simply been blindsided by it? Or maybe in the interest of getting a point across, there might have been a little bit too much emphasis on what situations have occurred here. And I guess I'm just asking the question, if in addition to taking proactive steps, and I commend you and I commend the staff for it, can we also, and maybe you're doing this, do the research and find out what the trend lines are here. And I really think it's important because you need more support to address these things. The board's got to know it. If the situation is something that you feel that you and your staff's efforts are adequately addressing, well, the board needs to know that too. I don't think that it's going to lend itself to quick answers, but I think when you get your HHV reports done, that I think the board, I'm guessing, would be very interested in seeing those.
Sure, 100%.
Okay, thank you.
So, David, I had asked, and everyone, I had asked John to start with what the data we have, the hard data, and then to take that to the next step for us to look at it and use the lens you're just talking about, that same process, right? And then go back and, purposefully, do we need to have an opportunity for student voice to bring, to look at that data, and is that data telling us, yes, that is what's going on, or no, what we heard that there's this unreported stuff going on, and then how do we address it? So start with that hard data, to kind of guide us in the next questioning, exactly kind of what you're talking about, but that just is what we had talked about, where to start. So.
I want to say that after all the horrible things that have happened down in Brattleboro, I've always been very proud of actually all the schools in Wyndham Northeast that we seem to have dodged that bullet. And, you know, I'm ever the optimist. I would like to continue to believe that's the case, but if it's not the case, then I think we need to know about it.
I agree.
I agree as well. Yeah.
So if it was also, if that speech that we heard on April 25th, if it was trying to get something else across, at least if the community knows that you took that seriously, because hearing the punch really made the community feel like, you know, a school that we all wouldn't be sitting here if we didn't care about had some problems down some dark hallway that we weren't all aware of. And I think it's very important, you know, to get that across, because I agree with David that, yeah, that's been in the back of them. I hear that and hear it and think, you know, I go to a lot of things in the school and I don't even have a child here, and, you know, I haven't heard that there's those kind of problems. But I'm glad to see that we're, you know, headed in the right direction to at least try to find out. And if somebody knows something, I hope they're telling you and not just, you know, making themselves look good on the TV or something. You know, it's that the accusations are made serious.
Well, I think beginning with data and offering the students more voice will start us in the right direction and give them more confidence and improve the climate, which is very good at the moment, I think. Like, being in the building every day and addressing things with kids and just, I don't know, just I could give you 100 examples, but again, I don't want to be overconfident like David, and I not being overconfident, but addressing it in the right way and not taking anything for granted. And as being the major person who did a lot of the investigation when reported, I know when I was looking at some of the data, you know, they were handled pretty well, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but it was doing a lot of restorative stuff, doing a lot of talking with kids and working with kids. But I want to have a thorough look at it and see, hey, is there really a problem? Did we miss something? And give kids the opportunity to feel safe and comfortable to come and report them. So.
Good, thank you.
Just the other things at the bottom there, class night, June 15th, in the auditorium at 7 p.m. We will be giving out close to $200,000 on class night this year. And graduation June 16th, up on the Hadley Field up top at 6:30. Yeah, so one of the proud moments of the year.
Yep, that's right. Jason.
I had a couple of easy questions for you,
Sure.
Don, first. The last 2 meetings ago, the science teacher came in and was talking about wanting to revamp her room or remodel it. Where are we at with that?
Still, I just spoke to her today, actually. Still working on the designer to come up with designs within the measurements that Kristen is working on. We're looking to form a small committee. And again, I know at this time of the year, no one has time, but it's very important. So my hope is that by our paper meeting on the 9th, that we'll have costs and renderings at no cost, just someone who's looking to design it. And then we can present that to our committee to see what direction they want to go in as far as talking with Haver and using some of the generous money there to renovate it and make it state of the art.
Thank you. You had also mentioned a couple meetings ago about we asked you to get an estimate for the parking lot to replace. Where is that at?
You mean fix or
Like
the total renovation?
cut and fix permanently, that one, especially
Get
that
rid
one
of the
spot,
lake.
that one spot right there. If maybe if it's, can we,
Do you mean total renovation or just the fixing of it?
well, I think the budget was passed a couple years ago to replace it. I'm not exactly sure if it was a replace or fix, but
No,
I
because
know-
we never voted on it, so. didn't
yeah,
know.
we got messed up or something, but I know we talked about it. and
They
we-
still have the company in Brattleboro, I forget the name, them that worked on it.
It doesn't
Yeah.
cost anything for an estimate, so I'm just wondering if that's still,
They still have
it's still on the
all
burner.
the information, and again, if we talking about ESSA money, that's we're kind of the second or third.
I don't think we can use extra money for that.
No,
Right, the state's been
Right.
real clear
Yeah.
about
Right.
that.
Yeah, so
That's
I know we talked about it, so it's, if it's on a burner somewhere, I know you're busy.
We need to have a building and grounds.
there's
committee.
also that, yeah,
Gotta get that
we
going.
should have, I think that would be the best way for
Okay.
us to approach that, have a buildings and grounds, and we can,
There was a Pledge of Allegiance poll that went out to parents. Where is that at? Do you know?
I can answer that. Is that okay? Colin? Can I-
Go ahead.
So I apologize, I did mean to put that in my report. So we have the thought exchange is really designed to generate just conversation around it and see where people's feelings are and whatnot. And it's almost a full-time job digging through all of the information. But when we asked the hard question, just yes or no kind of thing, it was almost split right down the middle. With, I think it was 42% was for the having the Pledge of Allegiance said in our schools. And I looked at it as all SU, not just the high school. And I think it was 40 or 41% for, excuse me, for not having it. And then, right, like that 18 and 20% was neutral or didn't have an opinion on it. So, but what I'm trying to do is work with the company to kind of, you can put some themes together to kind of tease out where these things are. But on most of those thoughts that people put, so if someone said, I think they should, if people were basically for wanting to have the Pledge of Allegiance, they were rating that really high. And then those who weren't were rating it really low. So it was essentially a 50-50, if you will, on that piece. So,
Okay.
but my hope is by the next meeting, we'll synthesize that enough to be able to present it. I just didn't feel comfortable just throwing it up there.
Sure.
So I apologize for that.
That's okay, thank you. John, where are we at with interviews for girls' high school varsity basketball coach?
Ian's going to contact you. We was talking about that earlier today and Friday as well. We're hoping to, I believe we have 3 fairly decent candidates to interview. He's looking to get that done by the end of this week or early next week.
Thank
He
you.
knows of your interest to be on that committee.
Thank you. And then just lastly, as far as what David had mentioned and Molly had mentioned is, so I have the comments from the meeting that Andrea made. And the thing that strikes me, and I'm gonna go back to something you said just a minute ago. It said, you think the climate here is currently good. And I agree with you. So her comments were, she's been working here 20 years and reported to me numerous times each year that racial incidents happen regularly in our community. And you've only been in charge for a year. So and as part of the investigation and getting the hard data, it almost seems like, it's directed towards you. And we're taking steps to go forward and, posters and speaking up to the students and the teachers, but is any of that factual? As far as like the administration it almost seems like she's saying the administration is the problem. So where's the investigation in that?
I didn't look at it in that perspective. We investigate anytime something is reported, we investigate through the process that we follow. Starting with, the report, talking to kids, talking to parents, gathering the artifacts or data, if it's something around messaging, which seems to be a common thread over the years, which again, when it's almost done, I'll get it out and let you guys have a look at it.
She must have a book somewhere, right? I mean,
Oh,
20,
yeah.
20 years of
we
data.
have-
She must
Oh, no.
have a book somewhere of all these incidents, dates, times, when, who, what. You know what I mean? Because
Got a lot of them. I mean,
that's
they're-
important. I agree with you. I think I have kids in the school. I think that the climate here is good, and I also think after you investigate it and close it up, that obviously you're going to circle back to the person who's accusing you of not doing something correctly. Whether it's Andy or you or what. So
but again, I don't know if it's accusers. I mean, it could come across as that, but I just feel that we need to move forward. And again, all the decisions that I will make will put the kids first.
yeah, I believe you.
And that's why I'm doing all that we're going to do, and not just me, all of us, all the staff. They're all going to work together to make it, if possible, make it a safer place.
I applaud the effort, and it's not easy, and I am a John Broadley supporter. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jim.
I just have a lead off of Jason's. So if Andrea had 20 or so reports every year, she is required to report that to the vice principal and the principal, correct?
Any report should be, there's mandated reporters, and then there's those who investigate. The assistant principal does, I know from experience, 90% of the investigations.
So all 20 of her.
Because the principal should be available. And Mr. Hodgson would always tell me, I'm sorry you have to do another investigation, but I need to be free for
20 years worth of incidents.
the appeal, the appeal, which makes sense. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. So,
Okay, I'm just checking to make sure that all reports that are made to Andrea are then passed on to.
they should be passed on.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, so we will get an
And if I
account for
could-
that.
Not every time, I can speak from just my experience as a building administrator, not every time it does something, when you do an investigation or look into it, always go to harassment, hazing, or bullying, or raise to those levels.
Right, right.
And over the 20 years, I can't speak to what Vermont was doing prior to me working here, but I mean, laws were enacted at some point to drive certain things, and they've been adjusted and amended. So, and a lot of times, as a building administrator, someone comes to me and say, this person's harassing me. They have to fit in a 9 protected categories kind of thing and stuff like that. So it's unfortunately, as John's kind of saying, it's not easy doing an investigation, but I just wanted that information. Just because someone says this happened doesn't mean it always pans out to be that piece of it. So
Molly, man. So Andy, what you're saying is you're going to validate Andrea's claim?
No, what I'm saying is that a student might have come to me when I was a building administrator and made a comment that this happened, like something was said to me or whatever. I have to do an investigation into that, and it may turn out to have not happened. I might not even have enough evidence to say it did or didn't happen. And that's the process you go through, and it can be very frustrating for victims and perpetrators and everything, because there's a whole process you have to go through. And then there are times also that something may feel like harassment, but may not rise to that level of harassment. So it's just not the kid used, called me this, so now it's a harassment report that's generated, so.
But it would still be documented that somebody made a claim, it was
Should
investigated,
be, yes.
and it was proven not to be under this category. Yeah, okay.
John, I have two simple questions.
Mhm.
How many years are you the assistant principal?
12.
Thank you.
1 year as AD, 2 years math teacher, and 5 years special education.
So for 12 years, you saw all that, and you're sitting here and telling us that you think everything is
Well, I think
decent.
everything that was reported was
Thank
done
you.
well. I thought, again, a lot of the HHB investigations, I always frame it as a great opportunity to further educate students other than the four calls, because
One more quick question, because I totally missed the
Sure.
last one, because the middle of the day is not a good time for me to have a meeting. You said June 9th is the next Haver meeting.
yes.
What time of day? 7, 8 o'clock at night's good for me.
Well, actually, let me get back to you on that one, because I know that there are some people that like to have them later, and I think it's
I mean,
maybe,
if we could do 6, I would.
it's maybe time that
But
we
the
do
3
one of them
o'clock is
later,
fine.
because that will help our, we have a good cross-section of
Okay.
committee members, so
Just, I'm interested in that, and I did blow off the last one just. 'cause
now
I
let
didn't
me,
have a choice.
let me look at that, because I think, it's time that we have a little bit later to let everyone get there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Is everybody all set with Mr. Broadley? Anybody on our screen would like anything from Mr. Broadley? Okay. So let's move to committees. WNESU. Priscilla, would you like to speak about our last WNESU meeting?
Oh, I don't have my notes, but it was a long meeting.
We spoke a lot about ESSER funds.
ESSER funds, we talked about ESSER funds. We didn't finish the whole agenda. I didn't bring my thing. We didn't finish the whole agenda. We put some things off till next time because we had gone a good 2.5 hours. A lot of it was ESSER. And what Andy has talked about tonight covered what we talked about in ESSER at that.
And the next thing was on there too, negotiations.
Negotiations were on there, yes, and we were meeting, June is the representative though from this. Do you want her to?
Are you comfortable, June, or would you like Priscilla?
I think I'm comfortable.
All right, let's have it.
We have
Just-
our next negotiations meeting on Wednesday at 5.
5, we meet at 5 and with them at
And
5:30.
at that meeting, they give us their proposal, we give them our proposal, first proposal. And from what I understand, we break up and see what we can live with and then come back to the table and hammer out our first draft.
Good.
We have 2 meetings to be able to present new items.
Okay. I think that Mr. Hawes pretty well covered ESSER, so I don't know if we need to go back to ESSER, do we, at this point? Nothing new going on?
The only, ESSER 1, we can't make any more amendments after May 31st. And those funds are gone as of September. But we've been diligent in making sure we, spend them appropriately and not give any money back to them.
Okay.
That's on that.
Thank you. And so we got reports. The last one we added to the agenda is policies, and Priscilla, that's all you.
Okay, yeah, the committee met on May 3rd and covered the following policies. C10 and C10P, that's prevention of harassment, hazing, bullying, and the procedures that go with it. We had an old F1 that will update to those. The F1 was adopted October 28, 2015, so it's outside our 3-year review procedure that we're supposed to be trying to uphold to, although sometimes can go as much as 5 years, but most of our policies are outside that, so we're trying to update them, make sure that they're current. We also reviewed and got ready student freedom of expression in school-sponsored media, which is C11. C12, which is prevention of sexual harassment. C14, a policy on prevention, 504 ADA grievance protocol for students and staff. And F34, the flag policy. They were posted on May 18th. So we just need to make sure the public is aware that they have been posted, and we would ask to take those up at our next regular meeting, which will be well after the 10-day requirement that they have to be out there for the community and everybody to look at. Then we would discuss them if there was any discussion needed at that meeting and do a motion to adopt.
Okay, thank you very much. So those are on the website now for anybody to look at.
Yes.
Okay. June.
I guess this is a question for Andy. There was some discussion about making our website a little easier, user-friendly, so that the community knew that these were out there and could find them easily, because I know I've had to ask 2 different times where to find them, and they're
in a honky place.
So yeah, Riggy was currently working on it. In fact, I went to look for a policy for someone and I couldn't even get onto our website yesterday. Or this morning, maybe it was. So we are aware, we are really trying to make it much more user-friendly. And even before, I think this website sunsets basically June 30th. And then we're looking at a new platform. So we're going to try and move it so we can make it so you can get the policies a lot faster right now, but I don't want to have Ricky invest a ton of time on fixing something that we're not going to have much longer. But we will see what we can do to make it easier for both.
Okay, I think
I guess let them harass us to help them find it if somebody needs to get on there. Is the best thing to do at this point, because I know it's difficult. I've tried to.
Okay, so just be known that those policies are out there and that they're gonna come back to us on June 27th. Unfinished business. So this is you too, Priscilla. Review and approve policies.
I would make a motion that we adopt the policies that are listed on the agenda. B3, B4, B8, C1, C3, C4, C5, C7, C8, F1, F23, F24.
There is a motion made to approve the policies that are on the agenda tonight. They have been posted and we've talked about them for a couple meetings now. Does anyone have any questions before we go to a vote?
Well, I do have a question. Is posted a synonym for warned for adoption? Quick, I went to discussion about that when we were in the auditorium.
We would like to have it be that way, but we have also, before we have done them, we have also told, like I just talked about the policies, the 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, the 6 that we're going to take up at the next meeting as adopting, so that people know that they're there, so that we will know that we're planning to adopt them.
If I could follow up with that, Molly. When we were in the auditorium, someone, could have been me, suggested that we consult counsel and find out what the statute says about adoption of policy, since there seemed to be some uncertainty in the room that night.
And we did that.
Andy did send a message to us with council's recommendation.
I don't have that in front of me, Andy. Do you
I
have
do.
it? Okay, hold on. Are you good with her reading?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, go ahead.
It says, hello, Andrew. Policy adoption is governed by 16 VSA Section 561.31, which states board policy shall be adopted at regular or special school board meetings. A school board shall give public notice of its intent to adopt a board policy stating the substance of the proposed policy at least 10 days prior to its adoption. If the board has a policy on policy adoption, any additional requirements in that policy apply. The practice of having a first and second reading is not required by law, but does provide more opportunity for public input. I hope this information is helpful.
I have a follow-up question, Molly. What constitutes public, what was the term here? Public warning?
Public notice.
Public notice.
It's notice.
What constitutes public notice legally?
Well, didn't we just state that we were posting them and where they can, the public can get them? And that we are planning to have them on the agenda for adoption at the next meeting. Certainly, this is a public meeting. Certainly that should be considered public notice.
In the past, these boards have actually placed public notices and the legal notices in the newspaper for policy. I don't know if that's required under statute or not. But I think that that's maybe kind of what's missing from the advice from council. I'm certainly not going to vote against adoption of policies, but I think that we have an obligation to make sure that we're crossing the i's and dotting the t's when we do it.
Go ahead.
So the quote about a school board shall give public notice of its intent to adopt the board policy is taken right from the statute. That is the language from the statute. It's quoted from.
What does it mean? What constitutes public notice? That's the question I'm asking.
I can query that question if that's, I mean.
Molly, can I? Our policy that has not been updated since 2008 also states that the board, either as a whole, because we have, and the reason for the as a whole is because, like with Rockingham, we only have 5 members, or through a policy committee, which we have been using for the high school board or for the SU board, will seek appropriate public comment and administrative guidance as it considers proposals for policy development or revision. So at our meetings, we also have the chance for public comment when we have our policy committee meeting. So there is that. Then there is the posting. There is the other. It depends on what the board wants to do as far as considering following the guidelines and following the statute. It is totally up to the board to make that decision, I would think. And that's based on the webinar too, and the training that I also took to be able to do policies. What we've done is policies need to be posted, warned for at least 10 days for adoption, so the public has opportunity to comment. Posting provides substance of the policy, which is all that's required, is only substance.
Okay.
But we have posted the whole policy.
I'm sorry, but we got it. You've gone over this. I struggled with it first and I read that email probably 10 times because it's not in lumberyard's talk as far as I'm concerned. And I am from the generation of, we do this first read, second read, adopt. So that's what's in my brain, is that's what we do for policies. So all of a sudden this year, it got elevated up to here a couple of times because the last thing I wanted to do was pass all these policies and figure out that we never clue what we were doing it wrong. So I held it up one meeting because it wasn't what I'm used to seeing. And my watch is telling me to calm down. So, Andy, I think that I understand from that email from Pedro was that this is the way we are this is a legal way of doing it. Is warning these, we brought them, we posted them for over 10 days. We bring them to a meeting and they're on here for approval. And it's up to our votes on whether we approve them or not, but we've gone through them. We've talked about each individual one. And now Priscilla just gave us a list of them now that we haven't really talked about, like we talked about this first list, because we talked about this first list like 3 meetings. And I think that is maybe what, I can't speak for David, but as myself sitting in this chair, we used to talk about each one of them, which I don't want to be here till 10 o'clock tonight, but we're throwing a whole bunch of them at us all, a whole big list all the time because we're behind. So it feels like we're being punished because we're behind. So time out on the giving me 10 more policies and give me 3 and bring me 3 every meeting and let the board hear what each 3 are and understand them instead of throwing me 10 and telling me I've got to read these and figure out whether I approve them or not. And we're really not going to talk about it. We're going to come back next meeting and want you to vote on it. That's the way it feels. And I think that's the struggle here.
And
But
we can
this,
talk
hold
about
on, it's my turn. So we have these right here now that we've talked about several times. And we have a motion on the floor. So I would like to get to the motion.
I just have one question for Priscilla.
Sure.
When I just went back and printed up F-23, it did not say the school district or the amount under number 3. So I want to make sure
Under
that
which one?
F-23 capitalization of assets,
F-23.
it was blank for the school district in 2 different places, and then a blank under 3A for the maximum amount, dollar amount. And I just want to make sure that they're filled in before we adopt them.
Absolutely. 122.
And maybe I'm the only one, but having these, all this on this agenda like this and not having them in the packet and telling me to find them on a website that half the time I can't even get on is very tough for me.
Nicole sent them to you.
No,
No.
she sent us a picture of where they were under.
Okay, I didn't open it because I had them and I was busy.
But it did take me a couple times.
Yes, but the answer to your question, yes, because that is a recommended policy to adopt the way it is, that we would need to go through and wordsmith it and put in
Go ahead, Deb.
WSU supervisor union.
And the dollar amount?
Yeah.
Who
You're
comes up with
muted,
that dollar
Deb.
amount?
Yep, I know. I had to go look it up. So that's not accurate, folks. On May 20th, Nicole sent us the BFUHS board meeting for Monday, May 23rd. It included 4 items. One of those was all of the policies that are on the agenda. So we had an opportunity to read them. I'm simply saying, and I'm simply saying that opportunity was given.
And it's not on there, that's what.
I'm not gonna disagree with you, Deb, I don't know. I tried to find them on a website, it was probably my mistake.
I don't believe it is.
Okay, I will confirm it tomorrow. Yeah, the F-23 should be 5,000. We talked about that at the last meeting as well.
Madam Chair, I wish to call a question.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor to approve policies. B3, B4, B8, C1, C3, C4, C5, C7, C8, F1, F23, and F24.
I second.
Pam, how do you vote?
Yes, aye.
Deb?
There we go. Aye.
Brenda?
Aye.
Tanya?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Margot?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
June?
Yes.
Those policies have been approved. Thank you.
So can we just make a quick request that Nicole or somebody, or maybe you, send out for this next round a list
We'll make sure
of the
you get
policies?
the actual policies and not just the list.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are on 8B because we already did 8A, request of leave of absence. And we have a leave of absence request from Maureen Parker.
Yeah, Maureen has waited patiently, so I appreciate that she has waited here. Maureen came to me and asked, requested I'll just read her.
Do
so-
we need it in exec session?
I guess I could query Maureen on that if she'd like it in executive session.
I'm fine with it in open session.
Thank you.
So dear Andrew Hawson,
Yes, Deb?
I just want to point out that anything that is sent in an email to any of the board members is a public document. It is not confidential information, just saying it's a public document.
Thank you.
so dear Andrew Hawson, the high school board, I wish to ask the high school board for a year's leave of absence during the 22-23 school year. The reason for my leave is I need to find the joy in teaching again. This past year has taken a toll on my love of teaching and my mental health. I have always told myself that I would not become a grumpy old teacher, just collecting a paycheck. I've worked in the district for 16 years and have always given my career the best I could offer. I believe it is in the best interest for my students and I to take a year and focus my energy on finding my passion for teaching again. Thank you for your consideration. If you have any questions, please feel to contact me. Sincerely, Maureen Parker. And as I was saying, Maureen and I met, had a tearful conversation, and you know, I support. We don't want Maureen to take a year off, but we also don't want to lose her as a educator long term. So I think she echoes what we're seeing a lot with a lot of teachers these days.
Maureen, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So when I read your letter, of course, the first thing that came to my mind was, oh my goodness, another math teacher. And then I thought, is there a way that you and John could come up with some kind of plan where you could help him with a replacement and help him or help that person get situated? I mean, you know the history of all your students. You take them through 2 and 3 years of math, and probably they have you for 2 or 3 years in a row. Pretty hard to actually replace you, but are you leaving the country, or are you around and maybe would be a part of finding a replacement and making sure the students are getting what they needed?
I think currently we are looking. So I've been on the interviewing committee to look for a replacement. I think the math department, all of us have all different kids. So my kids that I have this year are not necessarily the kids I will have next year. So I don't know if I can be of any assistance but John and I have had open conversations.
I'd like to make a motion that we grant a 1-year leave of absence to Maureen Parker for the FY23 year.
I would like to offer an amendment to the motion. Would that be a 1-year unpaid leave of absence? I think we need to have some clarity around that.
It was going to be, I prefer it on.
I'll take it as a friendly amendment.
I second.
Oh, I'm sorry, what did Maureen say?
She said it was
It was
supposed to
gonna
be.
be an unpaid.
And I took it as a friendly amendment.
Joan, what's the administration's recommendation?
Well, I'd like Maureen to work next year, but again, I understand as well, there's a shortage of math, there's a shortage of math teachers, there's a shortage of really good math teachers. Just look around us, Green Mountain need 3, Lane and Gray need 2, Brattleboro need 2 or 3, Springfield need a couple. And we've had the ad, I keep updating the ad to change the date so that if people look, they know it's a new job, but it's just not, there's not a lot of good people out there. So, and we have, next year, sorry, there's a bigger picture to it.
I'm
Ms.
assuming
Swan
that-
is looking to
Yeah,
retire next year, so our math situation won't improve, and having the knowledge that Maureen.
and I'm
hopefully will
assuming
be
no
back.
contract signed,
Pardon?
and we signed a contract?
Me?
No,
Her?
Maureen.
Sorry, no.
Okay, I've asked all the questions I can. Go ahead, Jim.
What does our math department look like? Because right now, if we grant Maureen her leave of absence, then we've got, I hear from a rumor that the math teacher that replaced Sean Murphy is now replacing Sean Murphy as the assistant principal. And then Miss Walters is leaving. And then if Maureen leaves, who do we have?
There's three out, and we have 2 on tonight coming in, and the ad is still out there. So we have 2 replacing 3, and an ad still out there. So
Okay, so that's not too bad.
yeah, it's still bad.
That's bad.
Still bad.
It's not
Maybe not
great,
as
but it's
green,
not
huh?
as bad as
No,
what we
it's not
were
3 out,
thinking
no.
about, what I was thinking about
Right,
2 minutes ago.
So yeah.
Okay, anybody got any more questions? Pamela, how do you vote?
I vote yes to let her have her year of absence.
Deb? Deb, right?
Yeah, I got bandwidth issues, so I.
Brenda?
Aye.
Tanya?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Margot?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes.
Jason?
Ms. Parker, I'd like to thank you for all your years of service with my kids and all the kids in town, and regretfully, I say yes.
June?
Yes.
Motion's passed. We have board retreat on here. And I would like everyone to look at their calendar, and I'm looking for a Monday night that we don't have a meeting between now and the middle of July, where we can get together. And Mr. Streeter has offered the Westminster Fire Department, and that's where I would like to get together. And if everyone's agreement to that, let's send some dates out on top after graduation where we can take one night and, let's get some thoughts ahead of time. I don't want to just go there and have it be a free for all. Let's figure out what everybody's really looking for out of board retreat.
Molly, I don't think Monday night works.
Priscilla, send me the dates that work for you.
Well, the only meeting that we can have in June with this is the 20th. Would we not have a meeting?
The next meeting is the 27th of June.
The 27th, okay. The 6th and the
I don't
6th
want to know
and the
now.
20th
Email
are
me, please.
other board meetings.
That's fine.
And the
That's-
13th, we're not supposed to have any.
Okay. Resignations and appointments. Who's got that?
Can I ask one question, Molly, first before we go on? What about a Saturday? could we do
You can without me.
okay, well, then that doesn't work.
I'm not gonna give up a Saturday.
Okay.
That's-
Before we move on, can I ask something under new business?
Absolutely.
I guess this is a question for Andy. Teachers have signed their contract who intend on signing their contract.
Either that or an extension.
So at this point, we don't know who we need or who's coming back or,
I honestly, I don't know the date on the extension. It's part of the CBA. So my understanding is though that every teacher, that we have contracts back if they didn't ask for an extension. And so there's a date on that extension. I just don't know off the top of my head.
and the extension would mean that they're possibly looking to work somewhere else and if that
So
falls through.
an example would be like Miss Parker. She didn't sign her contract, but she put in an extension because she didn't know what your guys' decision was going to be. We have other teachers who maybe are finalists in another district. One of the appointments we have tonight didn't sign their contract, but asked for an extension because if they get appointed to that other position,
Okay.
because if they sign the contract, they're kind of, they get locked in. So there are a few limboes.
But there's a date for the extension.
Yeah, I'll try and find that
Okay.
while we're.
All right, well, as
So-
long as we can have it on the next agenda.
Yep.
Thank you.
June 1st is the deadline, I think.
I
Okay.
just don't know it off the top of my head.
June 1st is the deadline by
We're-
contract.
We're moving on to resignations and appointments. And Mr. Broadley, if you would like to speak to that.
Yes, so for our assistant principal, Jenny Mckay is the one that I'd like to bring forward tonight. She's been teaching math for a year here. Very energetic young lady, interviewed very well. Knowledge of the kids, very important. I believe she has the makings of the skills to be a good administrator. I'm going to do my best this summer to work a lot with her to train her immensely in a lot of areas and just give her knowledge around a lot of things that go on. And then as we work into next year, support her and give her the opportunity to shine.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Jenny Mckay, assistant principal. Can I do a question? Is she currently credentialed, John, or can she be waived?
She's should be under a provisional. She should be done in a year. She's over halfway through her licensure.
Is there any other questions on Jenny McKay? June?
The under provisional, that means Dan French has to give her so that, and it states that you have to be done in a year or whatever.
That was when I discussed it with her, the stipulation I had was that she would complete her program and be fully certified by the end of next year. I'm trying to think of a date. Yes.
Any other questions? Okay. Let's vote on approving Jenny McKay as our new assistant principal. Pamela,
Aye.
Deb,
Aye.
Brenda,
Aye.
Tanya,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Margot,
Yes.
Priscilla,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
June.
Yes.
Okay, you got a math teacher?
I actually have two math teachers on for tonight.
Good news.
I think they missed the S. They missed the S on there, and we need them, please. So the first math teacher that we have replacing Miss Walters is Robert Oakes. He's coming
That's a good
to
one.
us from the middle school. Yep. Again, he wants to branch out, and he's excited about coming.
June, would you like to make a motion, please?
I will make the motion to accept Mr. Oakes as one of the new math teachers to replace Miss Walters next year.
Is there any questions about Mr. Oakes before we move to the vote?
Me too.
Pamela?
Oh.
Deborah?
Aye.
Brenda?
Aye.
Tanya?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Margot?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
June?
Yes.
Okay, who's our next math teacher?
Our next math teacher is Megan Ellis. She comes to us from Four Mountain, and she'll be replacing Jenny Mckay, our new assistant principal.
Jason, may I have a motion?
I'd like to make the motion to approve Megan Ellis as math teacher.
I second.
So we didn't ask on the other two, but what level is she?
Level 7.
I didn't hear that.
7.
7.
Yeah.
And what was Robert Oakes?
He is 13, as per where he's coming from. Let's say.
There's a motion on the floor to appoint Megan, sorry?
Megan.
Megan Ellis as a math teacher. Pamela?
Aye.
Deb?
Aye.
Brenda?
Aye.
Tanya?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Margot?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
June?
Yes.
So we have 2 math teachers and assistant principal.
Excellent. Can I put one more on that?
Do you have one?
I do. I'm not sure. We didn't get this, and I'm not sure if Andy got all the paperwork as well. So we could wait till the 27th, but it's our
Pleasure.
two-thirds choral position. I had it on the last
Yes,
time,
you're
but I
good.
had to take it
You're
off.
good. Yes.
Are we good on
Yes,
that?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Jennifer Garrettson is coming to us as a two-thirds choral position, as Richard Smith unfortunately has to leave us to go and take care of his mother. I mean, it's our loss, but I do wish him and his mother all
Would
the
she like
best.
to take a third in the math department?
We can see if I can get her licensed in that. Yeah, Jennifer Garrettson, though, she's
Math music connection.
coming in two-thirds choral.
What's her level?
Level 11.
Where's,
Step 11, yes.
where is she from?
Colin?
Masters, David, step 11 and master. She's coming from Washington State. She's originally from southern New Hampshire, and unfortunately her husband passed away recently, and she's moving back with her 2 kids to family. So, which is, she's a really nice, great person.
Priscilla, may I have a motion?
Yes, I would move to hire Jennifer Garrettson as a two-thirds choral person at step Masters Plus, step 11.
I'll second.
Is there any other questions? All right, Pamela, one more time. How do you vote?
Aye.
Deb?
Aye.
Brenda?
Aye.
Tanya?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Margot?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
June?
Yes.
You did a great job finishing that meeting.
Thank you,
I
everyone.
have one question for.
Yep.
Do you have a hiring committee?
Several.
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, because I'm available if you
Okay.
need somebody.
Okay, director's comments. Pamela?
None at this time, thank you.
Deb?
I believe I am good this evening. Thank you.
Brenda,
I'm all set, thanks.
Tanya,
I do not.
David,
Is it okay if I ask a simple question? John, how many graduates this year?
How many graduates?
You know,
71
thank you. Good luck to them all.
out of 73.
Not too shabby.
Not a bad percentage.
Great.
Margot,
I'm all set, thanks.
Priscilla,
I'm just going to quickly comment that as we approach the end of the year, just keep in mind that it's really a tough time for staff and it's tough times for students. So if we keep every one of them in our hearts and just remember the consideration and importance of being there and helping in any way we can.
Jason,
Yeah, I'm proud of all the seniors that are graduating this year. They're going to do great things. They've had 2 years of this pandemic that never seems to want to end. And I also like to congratulate John on his first year. I think he did a very good job, John. And I really appreciate, how you always say it's always for the kids. So I think that we align in that area. And I also like to congratulate Andy on a good year also. And, I hope, it's just the beginning of some great things that I think that we can all do. And, personally, I choose to be here to make an impact for the kids. And, I do like holding, if we say we're going to do something, I'd like to make sure we do it. That's why I try to always bring back what we agree upon so to make sure we're actually moving forward on it. So, thank you.
June.
I'm good, thank you.
So Jason stole a little bit of my thunder here tonight, but I do, there's a couple of nights in the school that we think that because we don't have a child graduating that maybe we don't belong there, but the awards night is really quite a night just to see what the community does for all the kids. So, if you're available on June 15th, right? Did I get that right, John?
Yes. Sure.
June 15th at 7 o'clock in the auditorium. It is, I go and I sit in a chair out back and nobody even knows I'm there, but I leave here with my head held high thinking that this is pretty cool that, we've done so much to support our kids. Graduation on the football field, it ended up there because of COVID, but, the first one that I ever saw on a football field, the first time we did a couple years ago, it was the most beautiful thing. I just couldn't believe how beautiful it was out in that field. And they just, the maintenance staff and anybody that has a hand in making that happen, it is just beautiful. And so it's something that, anybody can come to now. It's not that you can't come unless you're invited or something. And just to see the field and all those white chairs and the people that show up, just to watch it, it's pretty neat. And I do too also, want to thank John, congratulate John. I know sometimes that probably I'm a little rougher on you than you wish I was, because, I just want to know that we're, when people make things happen, I want to know that we're good, but you always come through. And nobody knows the conversations that you and I have, probably more than we ought to have sometimes, but you come through on everything. And I'm very proud that you took this position and you're just, it is about the kids and you never change your answer. It's about whether the kids are getting what they need. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm done. Date of next meeting is June 27th. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.